Live. Oh, all right. We are now live. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm super excited to be here with Daisy to teach me how to use Claude Code better. Do you want to introduce yourself, Daisy?
Hi, I'm Daisy Holman. I work on programming languages primarily at Anthropic, but I also do 20% time on the Claude Code team.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah.
I love Claude Code. I've been using it every day, all the time. I started using it a month or two after it came out. I finally set it up, and it just kind of blew me away. And then when the new Opus, the new Claude 4 and Opus and stuff came out, it got so much better too,
Oh
almost
yeah.
overnight. And even outside of the models, just the constant improvement and the better feature support and everything have been awesome, and just making it more and more useful every day. So I had one project I wanted to try to build, and I can screen share that in a minute. But I also was hoping you could show me how to use one of the newer features called hooks. Can you explain what hooks are to everyone, quick too?
Yeah. So hooks are like little reminders or nudges or course corrections that you can have automatically integrated into the REPL flow with Claude Code or into API usage, but where like if it say frequently uses a command that you don't want it to use and you'd rather it use another command, you can just set up a pre-tool use hook that checks if it's using the wrong command. If it is, then we give it block it from using that command and give it feedback to use the different command instead. It's just a step towards more autonomy. The idea is that hopefully long term we'll get to the point where the model will be able to follow instructions well enough that if you put this kind of information in your claude.md file, it will follow these instructions. But right now, like, models are not there yet, and so kind of giving it little mechanical nudges here and there. Obviously, it's not perfect, right? Like if you tell it don't use this program, it can go around you and like write a simple Python script that
Yeah.
uses the program. But generally, it's not going to try and do that. Um, and so it kind of patches a little bit of a hole. And so
Yeah.
we're
Uh,
excited about that.
I've noticed I mostly program in Go and want to give it a lot of tips to like write a make file and use that, and always remember to run lint before you send a PR and things like this. That it remembers for a while, and as the context gets bigger, it starts to forget those things, and it can run
Yeah,
itself in little loops. So I just see this as a nice way to add some determinism to the flow.
I'm very excited about it. I
Awesome.
think Hooks has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So
Um, Cool. Before we jump in, I'll just share the Claude Code, homepage here and everything too. It's super easy to install. It's one command here, and then you get going. I've tried a lot of the different agentic IDEs and other tools and everything, but I'm pretty set on my own IDE, and I like it. And I've never really gotten into the ones that require you to wholesale switch these out. And so
mhm.
the first time I had this running, just watching it use sed and grep to edit files in my terminal was just kind of mind blowing. How good and how effective it was just using those basic tools. And then you can kind of keep your IDE open and watch it go at the same time without having to change your entire workflow. So if you're following along, this is how you get Claude Code set up. It's pretty straightforward. All right, let's jump in, and I'm going to explain the problem a little bit that we're going to have this thing start to build. Hopefully this is big enough. Get this pretty maxed out on my laptop screen. But we're going to try to build a Git caching proxy. I was trying to build something like this actually as part of another project where I was trying to clone a ton of repositories and do some analysis on them. And I was getting rate limited by GitHub, and downloads were slow and everything like that as I scaled up the process. So this was actually Claude's idea at first, and it was part of a massive other project, and I never really got around to finishing it, but it was a little bit tricky at first to put something like this together. So I figured we could extract this to a standalone project and hopefully get this working. But the idea is if you're in some kind of clustered environment, we have one of these things running, and if you're Git cloning from GitHub a whole bunch of times in a short succession or in parallel or even over a period of time, you can speed these up by caching those repositories and just point all of the workers to hit this thing first. So I wrote this up. This is a pretty typical doc for me as I start off Claude, right? Something about this length. If it's going to be longer or something like that, I might feed it into Claude first and have Claude, in the browser, help me turn this into a slightly better prompt or something. But this is pretty typical for me, right? A couple of requirements. I try to keep those at the top. Explain some future stuff. So Claude hopefully maybe keeps those in mind as we're building these, but that also helps to remind it not to do those things yet. Sometimes Claude gets a little overzealous and starts adding a bunch of features I didn't need quite yet. And then a rough plan telling it what to do. When you're using a library in Go like this, I found that putting something like this in the beginning really helps. I don't know if this is good advice or
Mhm.
not, Daisy, but sometimes,
Absolutely.
especially if the library interface changes a lot over time, sometimes Claude not really hallucinates, but remembers the old version of libraries, and then it gets into trouble as it's trying to use something newer if it does the install for the first time. Um, and then just some development tips. These are the things that typically get forgotten that I was hoping we could use hooks to help enforce later on. Um, and yeah, uh, all right. One other thing. This one here, sometimes I've noticed Claude loves documentation sprawl in a repository. As it does work, it starts writing tons and tons of small markdown documents all over the place describing little features. I like to keep things together. It's easier to read them and keep them updated.
Yeah, I have a workflow like that. That's like I tell it to keep a development log, but keep everything in like the .daisy directory.
Nice.
So it does kind of sprawl a lot of junk there. I have a workflow to go clean up the development log also, but like yeah, keeping
Cool.
state across sessions is a challenge, and it's really the biggest challenge to like scaling this up to real production type uses. So.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so let's get started then. I'll open up my terminal and I'll make this bigger because I know that's too small. So I'm just here in this repository. One more bigger. Um, and now I'm just going to open up Claude. With everyone here, I'm going to do the dangerously skip permissions since we're all going to be watching. That way I don't have to press enter a
Yes.
million times. YOLO mode, as some people like to call it. Um, and now I'm going to kick it off. I don't have a Claude.md or anything in here yet because this is an empty repository. When I'm starting on a new project like this, I kind of like to have it build out the code base first and then have it generate a Claude.md that I can tweak instead of doing it at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Are you one of those power users that has like a Claude.md in your home directory that you always update and stuff?
I have a pretty extensive Claude.md. I have it up here. I can share it at some
Oh,
point.
yeah.
But,
I'll kick this off, and then if it slows down or we're waiting for some results or something, we can jump over to yours.
sounds good.
Um,
Yeah.
Cool. So what I typically do in here is just like read the task in readme.md and think through a plan. Go. All right, and I'm on Opus right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be slow.
Yeah.
I think honestly, the fact that Opus is so slow has led us to think a lot more about what do autonomous, like long-term autonomy look like? Like what does an overnight run look like that's actually still productive? A friend of mine has this project that he wants to call like, well, I probably shouldn't talk about it. I have to be very careful here, but yeah, I think that we could get to much longer scale autonomy at some point. And I think that's a very interesting question.
Nice.
I
It's
don't
not
think token generation is getting any faster. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. I used to use Sonnet more. I switched to Opus. It's not too slow. Sometimes if you have a really good feedback loop, then Sonnet can kind of churn through things faster. But yeah. All right,
I
here's
think
the
you can
plan.
also set subagents to be Sonnet and
Ooh,
then regular to be Opus.
ooh, fancy. I haven't tried that yet. You can mix and match them.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if that's publicly released or not, but I don't think that's a big secret.
Nice.
Um, do you use subagents a lot, or do you see it using subagents a lot?
Yeah, sometimes I tell it to. Yeah, just for people following along, if you type /model, you can kind of control the model. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how the sub agent thing would work. But I do remember reading a blog post from you all saying it was actually better to have Opus steering a bunch of Sonnet sub agents.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's read this plan, study the Go Get library. Cool. Initialize the project, build the API server. Cool. All right, yeah, this looks pretty good.
One thing you can do is say, ask me 3 questions of things you're not sure about.
This is good. Like this?
Oh, did you do think harder?
No.
Yeah, make sure you say think harder
Right, right
in
here.
the prompt. You know about the think
Yeah,
harder trick, right?
ultra think and stuff like that too.
Yeah, ultra
Yeah.
think harder.
Should
I
I
do
tell
that
it?
pretty much all the time. I don't know, like, I don't actually know how this I don't know how these kinds of workflows work in like a token conscious way. I'm literally just trying to, if I can use 3 times as many tokens to get 15% better results.
Yeah.
I think a lot of enterprises at that spot right now too. Tokens are very expensive, but engineers are way more expensive.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Yeah. It gets into that like italic font when it's thinking harder. I always recognize that. Cool.
So did it actually ask you the questions?
It said, let me formulate the 3.
Initial negotiation.
Okay.
So it's making its plan. Yeah.
Nice. The 3 questions will significantly impact. Ooh. Let's use a shared lock for the first one. So this is a good question. I was thinking about this one when I was writing this up, but I didn't answer it. So if a whole bunch of clients request it at the same time before it's fetched the first time, let's use a shared lock so they all wait. So we don't have like cache stampeding. Let's do full clones. That's fine. We can optimize later. And just enough for basic clones to work. Cool.
All right. And so then you can say, yeah.
Cool.
And then you can go and say like, okay, with this in mind, go ahead and take a shot at building out a plan and implementing it step by step or something like that. I usually remind it that it's
like this.
Yeah.
All right.
I usually turn thinking on for this too, but I don't know. Like, there's some disagreement as to whether or not. I think some people don't think thinking adds enough relative to latency.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not worried about how many tokens you're using, but I don't know that what like thinking causing it to go wrong looks like. And my workflows are pretty much, I'd start 3 different Claudes on 3 different tasks and I go get lunch. Like
nice.
I don't interact directly. So
do you use get work trees a lot?
I use get work trees a lot.
Nice.
Although I also just use separate, we have these things called coder spaces, which is basically just, workspaces in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just use separate machines, which is probably pretty wasteful. Like, you don't need 64 cores to run Claude.
Sure.
But, with the amount of compute we use, that's,
yeah.
So you want to take a look at its design while we're.
Yeah, cool. So it just wrote that out. All right, let's read the design.
And we can interact. You can interact asynchronously while it's working.
Yeah, that's new. I like it. You can just send things.
Relatively new, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been dogfooding it internally for a long time, and there was some back and forth on it. Because some people had already gotten into the workflow of like, let's just queue up the next 3 interactions. And then when it started asynchronously picking those things up, It was like, it just got distracted.
Yeah. Is there a way to still queue them up for later or no?
No.
Okay.
Hooks eventually.
Nice.
Maybe. We talked about that too, but we wanted to simplify the user experience. Like, do we do like, control shift enter to, or something like that? Yeah. And we were like, this is starting to get too much.
Yeah. Cool. All right, this looks pretty good. It added log level. Nice. I didn't ask for that one, but cool. Now it's going. Looks correct. All right, let's see what it's doing. Oh, nice. Wrote a big Go mod file. It always does this one. It always tries to downgrade my Go version.
Huh.
I think Claude doesn't think
why?
anything.
Because it's just the version it knows.
Yeah. This will be fine.
Yeah, you can tell it to use the more recent version of Go.
Yeah, the way this is set up is actually like Go is fine as long as this is less than the one you're actually running. So that's fine. When I have it write GitHub actions for me, it's always a problem because it always grabs old versions of things. So I have to tell it to make sure to always check the latest versions before it writes those.
Yeah, I've had a lot of struggles with that lately. I've been upgrading. So as one of the 2 Rust language team members here. We've been upgrading the versions of everyone's dependencies across the repository,
Yeah.
and trying to unify those versions. And it's very conservative about that. It's like, oh, this project says that it needs 1.1 and this project says that it needs 1.2. I'm going to really trust this and be like, we can't merge those because 1.1 and 1.2 aren't compatible with each other.
Is that based on
And
the
I'm like,
knowledge cutoff or something, that it just uses the ones it knows about at training time?
I think there's probably some of that. I think there's probably, yeah, I mean, because it's not doing RAG here yet, right? So like you could tell it, go read the Go documentation. Web search is public, right?
Yeah.
We've launched web search and web
Yeah,
fetch.
you have to really tell it to. If I'm really strict and tell it to make sure it always uses the latest versions of things, then it's pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Now it's ready.
I didn't generally tell it, like, if you are confused, go check the internet or go search the internet. I'll try and say, like, if you're confused or if you don't know what to do or if you're stuck, I'll tell it to, like, because if you tell it without like a qualifier, it kind of over indexes on that and just always immediately goes and grabs stuff when it doesn't even know what to look for.
Yeah. All right, so writing all this code. This is something I always struggle to steer it on. But don't write too much code before trying to build and test. But it always tries to write a lot before it does that first build and test.
Well, you can tell it right now. Go.
Yeah.
Make sure what you have so far builds.
Nice. Okay.
So with the to-do list, it should be able to go back to the to-do list after this.
Cool. It might be faster its way. I've learned to kind of trust it. But yeah, let's see if that works. Because it is pretty good at fixing hundreds of compiler errors, where normally if I were writing this myself, I'd do like one function at a time.
Yeah, it is. It is. It also understands that, especially for compiled languages, I think that there's a more latency to running the compiler.
Right.
I think Go is kind of somewhere in the middle ground, but those of us who use compiled languages regularly, we have a long walk to walk models from workflows that involve Python to workflows that involve our languages. And they're learning, but like so many hours of RL are devoted. RL, is that a term that I can use with your audience? Like reinforcement learning? Yeah. So many of the hours of RL are devoted to Python because it's just so important in terms of closing the loop and speeding up the industry and creating this kind of exponential scaling.
See, this is the type of thing where if I was writing this myself, I'd panic. That's so many compiler errors. I do like one or two smaller chunks, but Claude is pretty good at seeing 20 of them and fixing them in parallel or one at a time as it gets through.
Yeah, it starts to use context pretty substantially. Yeah. I don't know if I can talk about this features that's coming up that's really exciting in that respect, but let me...
Sometimes I tell it, I saw this on Twitter, I don't know if it works or not, but I've told it, like, use subagents and work in parallel, and then it'll spin up little, like, subagents for tasks like this, which I think have a pretty good effect of pruning. It's less about doing things in parallel and more about keeping the context small. It doesn't always listen when I tell it to do that, though.
Yeah, we even have a feature. It's been in the external beta for a while, so I think I can probably talk about it, even though it's like external beta, and external beta is only available to like partners or something like that. But I also don't know how much we're gonna pursue it. But for a while, we had a version that you could tell it to run subagents in parallel. Like it would run 3 identical copies of subagents, and then it would have a fourth subagent summarize the similarities and differences and create a synopsis.
I have some environment variable turned on.
So you've got like, the what?
I have some environment variable turned on that I saw on Twitter that was like undocumented, but it does that. It'll spin up a couple and then have like a synthesis one at the end.
Oh yeah. Parallel agents. It is. So wait, is that actually somebody found that environment variable publicly?
I would dump my environment variables, but there's probably my like Anthropic API keys.
Oh yeah.
Not that I'm screen sharing, but yeah, there was some kind of like enabled background subagents, and I set it to 3, but it said it could go all the way up to 10 or something.
I love working on a product that's this popular.
Yeah,
It's so
we're
fun.
definitely reverse engineering it.
You got to be really careful about what gets into the public release.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I think it's fixed most of these now. Nice. All right. And it's still running make build. Cool.
And you have nothing in your user's size Claude.md.
Not that I know of. I might have added stuff there by accident.
So you know about the hash remember feature or
Yeah.
the hash? Okay, yeah. And
Um,
I think we've now rolled out hierarchical Claude.mds. So if you're in a very large repository, you can put we're really converging on cursor rules at some point. At some point, we should just be able to use the .cursor rules file, to be honest. But
Claude, when you run /init, it looks for those, but then it translates them to the Claude MDs, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Cool.
Cursor rules are a little different too, though. They
Oh,
have
see,
like match
it ignored me. Oh man, this is what I was running into when I was trying to do this the other time. See, it ignored me. Look what it did.
Oh.
Yeah. I had to yell at it.
So you can just tell it absolutely do not use the get binary.
Yeah. The requirements set it to use go get. Cool. All right, I had to stop it. Yeah, for some reason it was struggling with this. I did get it to work eventually, so I know it's possible.
Tell it to go read the go get documentation online.
Yeah, it checked that off. Study the go get library.
Did it actually do RAG though?
I don't know. I didn't see it. We were looking at the code at that point. Here, I'll tell it to clone the go get library here and study the code base. Sometimes that works better for Go stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. I apologize for deviating from the requirements.
It's so apologetic. It tries so hard. It's so cute. I was writing a hook actually the other day since we were talking about hooks. I was writing a hook the other day to have it check anytime Claude invokes get remote internally, so that we don't accidentally add like external repositories to someone's get remote and then have them like accidentally push internal source code externally. And it's writing tests for this, and it writes like the URLs for like things that should be filtered out. And it was like github.com/evil-corporation/steal our code.get, which was hilarious. It was so cute.
Here we go. All right, it's cloning the repository. I had it struggle with another library I was trying to
We have an absolutely amazing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I said we have an absolutely amazing lead on Claude personality internally. She's like a former Oxford University philosophy professor or something, but she's just that whole team does such a fantastic job on Claude's personality, I think. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I had it. There was this other library, BuildKit, I was trying to write a bunch of code with, and it's a super complicated API, and I've never been able to get it working myself. And Claude was struggling with it too, and I felt vindicated. But the way I finally got it to understand was to have one time clone the whole repository, and then I told it to like study the entire API and write this markdown file explaining how to do anything with it. And then I just copied that markdown file around into any other code base I was trying to use, and that seemed to help a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is going.
You wonder how many of these kinds of tricks we could bake into like a driver Claude that would just like send the trick back.
Yeah. Well, this is running because it's probably going to take a little bit to study that whole library. Do you want to show your Claude.md? You can screen share.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
So there's a few things in it that are I still haven't gotten. I literally just copied this. Let me double check that there is nothing internal here. I don't think the fact that we use BuildKite is crazy. So I can share this. share screen with the Claude.md. Okay, is this big enough? Let's see. Looks like it's still being pulled up. But it's showing up for me. Sorry, I should have just had that up.
No worries.
It's showing up on the list of things in StreamYard.
I don't know if it's sharing for everyone else yet. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Now it's coming. Yay.
I can be a little bigger than this.
Cool.
Oops.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
So, yeah, this whole infrastructure with projects, this is one part, if you're looking at this later, that doesn't work. This is from way before, but like environment variables aren't preserved between bash sessions, and that's just for isolation. We find that Claude works better that way. But a lot of the rest of it is like we're going to work together on some long running projects, and like, yeah, put your thing in the .daisy/project name directory, keep a development log. It should be hierarchical because we don't want to pull the whole project. This is like for 3-4 week long projects, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite things Claude does when I tell it to work on something, if it writes a design.md, sometimes it'll put like milestones with dates in there, and it'll like say weeks 1 and 2, weeks 3 and 4, and then we do it all in like 2 hours, and it gets, sometimes as
I love that.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, we did 3 weeks of work in one night.
It's because it's working off of the general understanding of Here's the issues that I've had with community code. Some of this is also like specific to working in a monorepo. If you work in a very large monorepo, you're going to have to put your name on every branch you make. It loves to do this. Use the no verify flag with git commit. Because if you have a lot of pre-commit hooks, it will be like, oh, I can't get the pre-commit hooks passing, so I'm just going to no verify.
Nice.
Which is obviously the whole point. There's a whole bunch of like, this is something I had it right. I had it go figure out how to look at BuildKite using BuildKite's API and then remember it. That's a
nice.
Pretty typical example of just having it add things. It was also struggling with cargo.lock file conflicts, but it's trying to. So these are kinds of things that I put in there.
Nice.
And it just accumulates over time.
Yeah. Do you ever like optimize it or condense it or something like that?
I need to, honestly. Everything moves so quickly here that I haven't gotten around to it, but I've been meaning to. Like I said,
documentation once explaining that like there's some prompt optimizer you can feed these things into, but I never tried.
There is, yeah, it's in the console somewhere. I haven't it's not. I don't know that the prompt optimizer is. It's focused on things that are system prompts, and I guess this is kind of the same thing. Yeah. So, I should use it. Yes, I should definitely use it. The prompt optimizer team would be like, oh yeah, you could do much better than this.
That's why I never wrote one. I just figured whatever I did would be bad and just clog up the context and make it worse.
Yeah, this seems to work. This seems to work really well.
Cool.
During our hackathon week 2 weeks ago, where we get to kind of just work on whatever we want for a week, and like present it at the end of the week, I didn't quite get it working, but hopefully it'll come out at some point. Claude Plays Magic the Gathering. And I was hammering on this early in the week, and I kind of bypassed the whole project thing, telling it to keep a development log and everything. And I was like, because I was like, oh, I'm not doing this for multiple weeks. This is only this week. I don't need to like have this be long. And the degradation that I was seeing between like compacts, like from one compact to another, was so much lower or so much higher than what I had with this that I eventually just switched back into this, and a lot of that went away. Anyway,
Nice.
I've found it to be helpful. But
Cool.
do you want to take a look at where we're
Yeah.
at?
Yeah, so I had mine still running. It's doing the agents, so we can see what that looks like. It's in synthesizing right now. So it's
Oh, it is.
yeah, agent one synthesis combining results. So it's still going here. We are.
Well, okay. This is useful. Your screen's not up, by the way.
Whoops. It says I'm sharing.
This is useful feedback because we were just talking about removing the feature. But if it's slipped into the public and people are using it, I think we probably shouldn't remove it.
It says I'm sharing. Let me turn it off and try again. It's not up.
Still don't see it.
All right. Well, nothing interesting is happening. Hopefully, it comes up again in a second. Shouldn't have canceled out. It took yours a minute, so maybe mine will come up in a second. All right. It says it figured out how GoGet works, and now it's going to get this working. Cool. I'll tell it to write down a description of this too. All right, it's starting to write code again. This is annoying. The screen share isn't up, but I'll tell it to also write a .md explaining how code works. Oh, there we go. I'm back up. All right. Cool. Oh yeah, it's funny when it sometimes tries to go into the temp directories and gets blocked.
Yeah. So we actually told it to go around that way because we are
Nice.
trying to keep it more or less, at least sandbox directory wise a little bit. But I mean, the whole .daisy directory in my case generally because it puts anything temp
Yeah.
related there.
There's a way to give it access to other directories at startup time. I forget, but there is some flag where you can give it access, like a home dot something directory. It's always fun.
Yeah.
It figures out workarounds on how to get into the /tmp.
I think we tell it specifically to do that for /tmp and then like certain dot files in the home directory, like your ZSHRC and things like that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so now I can save that for next time I do something with GoGet. I have a little folder in my home directory where I just drop all of these and then I copy them into projects if I'm working with a specific library that's tricky.
And it did now stop following your directions about markdown files.
Oh yeah, I told it to make a new one, so that was fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually wondered if it was going to do that or not. That's what I was hoping it was going to do, so maybe it read my mind. All right, we can read that one while it keeps cranking. Nice. Yeah, so this is just a long one explaining the whole API and all the interfaces and the protocols. All right, now we're writing more code. Cool. I wonder if this is going to work.
Oh, yeah. This is where our hook could be useful.
Yeah, this is
right? If we
the hook I was thinking.
And it's calling. Is it not using the make file?
It
No, it
yeah,
used make
it's still
build.
doing the make build, but then it's getting all these errors. Where did it get that error? It rewrote it. Where's the build? Oh, it might have just done that on its own. Yeah, it didn't even try the build. It just knew that it was going to have some unused imports.
Do you want to tell it to add the thing that adds imports to the make file or?
Go.
Right? You can edit that and say so that you don't forget
Oh yeah.
or something like that.
Press up to edit. Cool.
Yeah. I usually generally like if it knows the purpose that it's doing it for, it tends to do a little better. I don't know. That's me seeing things also, but like
What I'm learning is you're a lot more verbose with it than I am.
oh,
Trying that.
I have problems with my verbosity for sure. Um, but it seems to work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I always see that longer prompts, longer context helps.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm also like I'm always trying to think when I try and teach people internally to get better at prompting, I'm always trying to tell them like think about the things it could get wrong.
Yeah.
Think about how it could misunderstand you. Like what could it misunderstand here?
But then I have to think.
Right?
I just want it to read my
Does it
mind.
understand that the reason that it wants to do this, that you want it to do this, is so that it doesn't forget to fix the imports before running the compiler? Because if it doesn't understand that, it might add it as a different separate step or something like that, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Or not automatically trigger it.
Now it's running tests. They all passed. Can we test it manually before we write integration tests?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing here, right, is that we are in between points where we're like trying to train it to run train it to run autonomously longer. So like that would have been the right thing to do to run with longer autonomy, right? Is to go ahead and write the integration test, make sure all of this is done.
And I think I told it to do that too. So yeah, if I went
Right.
back in my set of steps. Yeah, I said test it with integration and unit tests. Sometimes it just skips that step and tries to test it itself first. I was hoping it was going to do that here.
It does sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on what mood it's in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the challenge of using a stochastic thing.
Yeah, it's different every time. Oh, here's something I was wondering was going to happen. Cool. Yeah, so I have like this background setting turned on, and like I have to. This changed recently. When it runs stuff in the background, it just sits and waits, and I have to do Control B to actually make it run in the background.
Oh.
I noticed this like yesterday. Something changed.
Yeah, I'll report the bug. We can
Yeah.
even clip it from the live stream and
Nice.
um,
So I told it to like wrap all of this stuff up in one script sometimes, like start the process, run the tests, and kill it all in one script that it can run without having to manage that itself. So it can't go to /tmp.
right.
Okay,
And
so
that's basically a built. I mean, that's basically a built-in hook, right? We want to be able to allow people to write their own versions of this because everyone has their own little things that you don't want it to do.
Ooh, all right. So something worked and it got an error. Nice. Now we're in a debugging loop. Oh, we have to turn that on. I don't know what that means. It must be some Git thing.
Huh.
It's killing the old server. Cool. And you can see that thing at the bottom, that background one.
Right. The bashes. That's something we added relatively recently.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I'm going to have to Control B this again. Otherwise, it just sits and waits.
Right. We've been going back and forth on backgrounds. So
Yeah.
we had an auto backgrounding feature for a while.
Yeah.
And then one of the bugs I reported with it is that when Claude was trying to like get CI, wait for CI, it would like put in like sleep 180 because
Yeah.
it knew that CI was going to take a while. And then that would just immediately get backgrounded.
Yeah.
because it was running for too long without doing anything. And so I have this big stretch of it calling sleep 180 like 120 times in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I had that. I was doing like some Docker build or something. It took a while, and it had auto backgrounding turned on, and it was just getting impatient. It couldn't figure out what to do while it waited, but it felt like it had to do something. And
some of that is the Python in it, right? It's just not used to these kinds of long asynchronous dev loops.
Yeah. And it would like, instead of just waiting, it would background it and then try to come up with other stuff to do while it waited.
Yeah. We need to get better at that. Yeah. I don't know.
It's come such a long way.
It's going to keep coming. I mean, like we have this advantage, right, over Cursor and everyone else that we can just throw Claude code back into our RL directly.
That's awesome.
And this is why Google and OpenAI are also doing this, right? They have Codex and Gemini code or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're the only, like, Cursor is fantastic and a really well-designed tool, but it long-term is just not going to have that.
Yeah. Like something I noticed too that I just assumed must have been better model training around tool calling was in the beginning it used to make a lot of errors using its tools to edit files and stuff. And that's gone away completely.
It's getting better at that. I mean, some of that is just Opus getting better. Yeah. Some of that is we've gotten better at figuring out how to give it instructions for that.
Yeah.
I still don't think we're actually doing like auto correcting of like protocol bugs or anything like that. We do actually just tell it, fix your tool call.
Tell it to get better.
Yeah. I have a few that break internally, still quite a lot. But
it almost reading this, it almost gave up and went back to using the give binary again.
Wait, I realized explicit requirements. Yeah, I mean, another thing you can do here asynchronously is just like when you're done with what you're working on, check back through the original README and see if there's anything that you violated instructions on.
Cool.
Like having your original prompt in a README is really good for this kind of thing. How close are we to compact? We're a long ways away from compact still, huh? It's not even showing a percentage yet. And auto compact is public now, right?
Oh yeah, it's always done that.
Oh, okay. I started using Claude Code with like 2 days after I got here in February, and that was like, I think it was a week before the initial beta release or something like that, or a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot has changed. Like Claude, we didn't have a Claude.md file yet.
Oh wow.
So when I originally wrote that Claude.md, there was no like repository level Claude.md where you could stick that information into. Otherwise, maybe would have gotten used to doing that. There was just the one global one.
Yeah. It is really struggling with this task. It took me like 4 tries to get this working last night when I was doing it. I don't know why this one is so hard for it.
Yeah. Some LinkedIn user just said, can Claude get tricked into creating sim links to get around things? Absolutely. Claude can be tricked into all kinds of things. This is not a reasonable this is not a reasonable security barrier. If you need security,
run it in some sandbox.
Yeah.
I had it running in prompt mode where it's like one shot, like not through this interactive mode, and with the JSON output. And you can see all the system messages that it streams it itself to, and it's pretty funny. Every time it opens a file, this system message streams in, warning it not to help the user if there's anything malicious in the file.
That's nice. Yeah, I think hooks could could do a lot of this
Yeah.
at scale,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think the nice thing about hooks is that we should be able to distribute them in, NPM packages or in,
Oh, nice.
right, in Python packages even.
Yeah. Because they're
And
just
then
little JSON files, right?
yeah, well, they're little scripts that take in JSON and put out JSON, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Configuring it as the JSON, but then it can run any kind of binary, right? Yeah.
Right. And obviously there are, gaping massive security holes there in terms of installing someone else's hook without reading it. Like, they can run arbitrary code on your computer anytime.
Yeah.
But
it's all open source package managers.
Right. But also there's like the opposite side of that too, right? Is that you can prevent things much more kind of granularly. And we kind of have this feeling that I think a lot of people externally are just running with dangerously skip permissions, YOLO mode.
Yep.
And so we just want to give people the right tools. Like, yes, you could completely screw up your machine. You should be backing up your machine anyway, right? Like,
I've never had anything bad happen to my machine.
Yeah. And it doesn't have root, right? Like, I wouldn't run it in YOLO mode with root.
It won't run in YOLO mode with root. I was trying to run it in a container, and most containers run as root. It wouldn't do that, so I had to set up a whole user in the container. And
oh, it won't do that.
Yeah, it won't even let you start it if the user is root.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That was a smart decision.
Yeah. Oh, it might give up again. Let's see. Oh, maybe this is why it's getting in trouble. It was using V5 and there's a V6. Maybe that's the issue. Can we just use the V6 version?
Feels like there's a fair amount here that's after its training cutoff.
Yeah.
It's struggling.
Well, this almost seems reverse. It almost seems like you kept trying to use this package that only exists in V6, but we were using V5. That's weird.
I also find that, like, we're now 2 months away from our last model release, which is like
how far away from the next one?
AI time. So who knows when the next one is coming, but
maybe this will make it all easier.
Does that say require Dario.cat?
Yeah, apparently.
Dario making a cameo.
Must be the same one.
For those people that don't know, Dario is the CEO of Anthropic.
All right, maybe we're going to get this working in the last couple minutes of the stream. Go module versioning bit us again. That's funny, because basically what we did is we tricked it into doing all the wrong stuff, because I told it to clone the repository and study it, and it did. But when it did that, it grabbed the latest version and studied the latest version, but then it had installed an older one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we led it down the wrong path.
I mean, yeah, but we could be better.
Yeah.
I think it should do more web-based RAG than it does. Like,
do more internet searching?
Yeah.
Remember in the beginning when I first started using it, wouldn't open URLs unless they were explicitly listed in the project.
Yeah, and we were very careful about it letting it interact with the internet at all at first, but it's been some time to soak, and we're like, okay, maybe slowly introduce other internet things. Yeah. The other thing I think we realized is that, like, let's give it the right tools for internet that we can control so that it doesn't kind of turn into a Wild West a little bit. Like, even before we allowed that, I used to tell it to go look for documentation, and I would tell it, curl won't work for you. You have to write a Python script that does the actual retrieval, because we were just filtering on the command itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was actually telling it to go around that just because I needed it to understand things. I didn't feel like copying things off the internet. Like,
It might be working.
oh,
Something's happening. No.
bad line length character pack. So here's the thing I really wanted to get good at. I wanted to get good at using interactive debuggers.
Yeah. Whenever I try to have it do stuff with containers, it always gets stuck because it can't use an interactive TTY.
Yeah, okay. That is another thing that we are aware of and definitely can't talk about. But yeah, I think that there is a lot to be gained there.
Yeah. I have it write these crazy scripts to simulate it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think that the fact that that is a limitation that
It's clearly fixable.
yes.
Yeah. All right. It seems like we're getting close.
But for whatever reason, that particular research has gotten deemed secret.
Yeah. I had to write an MCP that simulated it pretty well once for Docker. It could start a container and then run commands inside of it with tools rather than using -it in the Docker command line flags.
And that, should be good. I think this will start to get a lot better when we can actually RL it on these kinds of things, right? Because right now it doesn't have really nice like general sense of like what an interactive context with history is.
Yeah.
Right. I think it maybe generally understands it from its pre-training data, but there's no like interactive prompt in its interaction with code. So okay, it fixed that.
Thinks there's still something wrong with our version.
Who knows? Maybe my hints are not helpful either. Like maybe me telling you to ask it questions was not.
We let it down the wrong way. Fun.
Like I often wonder internally whether I just write really easy code and that's why I get so much code out of it.
This is the hardest thing. I've written so many lines of code, and this is the one I was struggling on yesterday so much. And I thought that if we started fresh and you were helping, we'd get it on the first try today. I did get it to work eventually, but let's see it kill this bash. All right. Oh, it didn't set up mod capture. That's one I've seen. I promise I will get this working for everyone and tell you the results later if we don't get it in the next 2 minutes. I feel like we're close. It's got a running server. It's got logs.
I mean, I'm impressed that it got this far.
I'm not, because I've gotten so much farther on crazier things so much faster. This is like a worst case task for it for some reason. It must be the Go Get library itself. All right.
Oh no! Don't go back to V5.
Oh no! All right. Well, we're out of time anyway. All right. Before we end, anybody? I'll stop the screen share. Anybody in the audience want to guess how many dollars I spent in tokens?
Oh, are we still putting that out? I guess you're an API user, right?
Yeah. All right. That was $22 in tokens. That wasn't too bad.
That's not too bad.
Yeah. Jason guessed 59. 22. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah. One more for me. What changes am I going to make to my daily Claude Code workflow after today? Jason, I spent more than that on DoorDash during the stream. Yeah, you can't even get a burrito bowl delivered for less than that these days. What am I going to make after this? I think I'm just going to get better adding more context to my prompts, telling it the why on things more, and then maybe I'll actually try to write a .claudemd in my home directory. I'll stop being scared. Awesome. Thank you so much, Daisy.
Thanks for having me on. It was really fun.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. See you around.